residuals on the 165 films you've made?
I have no residuals. There was one film we did, a legitimate massage film for a video cassette distribution company, and the guy said he would give us points on it and this and that.
But
you know, go chase your points.
You see, as I say, the business is changing, but it's still difficult to chase your money around. If you have points on a film, it's tough. The distribution is just becoming, in the last few years, has just become rather organized, and it's tough chasing. You know, there are no real agents or personal managers as there are in legitimate film, quotes legitimate, as opposed to, I hate to use that term because that insinuates that this is illegitimate, which is not really.
Well, it's not recognized in a union situation.
Do you go home and tell your family what you do for a living? Either of you.
Well, no, I don't. I don't think, you know, my mother passed away a few years ago, but I don't really, because I don't really think they're prepared. In my particular case, I don't think my father's really super prepared to deal with that kind of thing. And there's no sense in, I don't see what that would particularly be of any benefit to the way we relate.
Samantha, are your mom and dad still alive, or sisters or brothers?
They are alive. They are quite a juxtaposition to each other, my mother and father, even comparatively speaking towards me. My mother is British royalty, and my father used to be a United Nations diplomat. This just makes them lovely, regular people, one with a Russian accent, one with a British accent, and both very into their own lifestyle. I'm more American than they are, to begin with. Sometimes I just think of myself as apple pie. Just look at these cheeks. But my parents found out about what I do, unfortunately, in a very crude manner. Somebody sent a picture, 2 pictures, one week and one the next week, unsigned, just cut out of magazines of me copulating, and another one, I think there was some oral sex transpiring. And when my parents got this in the mail and then handed me the letter, it was kind of a shock. I mean, it was something that we hadn't discussed. And I had done a few escapades in my life, and I had been quite risque, and they did know about those things. We had discussed them. We hadn't always seen eye to eye, but at least I had the opportunity to bring it up to them. This was kind of a behind-my-back situation that I had to deal with suddenly, and at first I denied that it was me in the picture, which was probably the biggest acting role of my life. And then I just couldn't stand myself for lying to my parents, so I went upstairs and I cried and I broke down, and I came down, you know, because I was visiting them at their house. I came down to the living room where they were all sitting, and I talked it over with them.
What did they say? Have they accepted the fact that you're a hardcore movie star?
They know that I do it. They don't want to talk about it.
You know, I think, you know, whether you know it or not, I'm going to be presumptuous at this point. I think at the basis of that question, really what you're asking is, do you...
moral acceptance in the community.
Well, also by oneself. I mean, you asked, do we tell our own families about this? Like, are we ashamed of what we do?
Do you feel good about what you do?
You're asking. Yes, I do. I do. And I think...
you don't feel defensive at all?
Yes, to some extent, because
How can we not feel defensive when people are, most people are against...
If you're a bigger business than GM, what do you have to be defensive
well,
about?
Well, it's not just business, it's a moral issue, as you would say.
Well, we know, because it's not just money, money is not the answer. Money
do you see the moral majority rising up on the horizon to come out and destroy pornography?
I've been picketed many times.
Did it do them any good?
I don't like any kind of picketing or anything. I remember when I went to go to my last award, we were in a limousine, and we could see out, but they couldn't see in. Of course, I didn't know that as we were pulling up. And I saw these millions of people with these great flamboyant signs and actual costumes, and they, God will punish you, death to you, people dressed up like the devils, like the boogeyman, you know, ooga, ooga. And I just went, oh my God, I can't stand this. I said, and I put my head down in my lap because they were freaking me out. It reminded me of Vietnam, and I felt like I was some sort of criminal, which I'm not, but but anytime I'm being abused or yelled at or screamed, it just I'm too sensitive for that. So I said, can they see me? Because I'm not going to look at them. And my other friends were giving them the finger and everything. And I said, I can't stand that. I'd rather not see it.
Okay, let me break for 5 minutes for news, and we'll go back and let our callers join in. The number's 383-7040. We invite your calls. Questions, comments. Remind you the rules here at camp. You can disagree philosophically. Try to be nice about it if you possibly can. This is WOC Davenport, Mutual News for 5 minutes, and then we'll see you again on the other side and talk about the hardcore movie business. This is WOC, it's 10:30.
Mutual News. The 9-member presidential panel set up to decide whether the ex-American hostages in Iran should be compensated for their ordeal recommended this morning that each ex-hostage be paid $12.50 for each day in captivity. If President Reagan agrees, each of the ex-hostages would receive up to $5,550. Attorney Bryce Claggett, who represented the former hostages before the commission, says he expects some of them would sue the government for additional compensation. An investigation is underway at Nevada's Indian Springs Air Force Base into the early morning crash of a C-130 transport plane. More than 60 people aboard the aircraft were injured, and there are 7 people unaccounted for. Mutual News asked Air Force Sergeant Ben Langer what happened.
The cause we don't know, but we did have a C-130, that's a transport Air Force aircraft, come in apparently on a landing into Indian Springs Air Force Auxiliary Field. That's about 45 miles northwest of Las Vegas. And he apparently made a crash landing.
Air Force Sergeant Ben Langer at Nevada's Nellis Air Force Base. This is news from Mutual Radio. Fred Lowry reporting.
Here, honey, let me help you put away the groceries.
Well, thank you.
2 dozen eggs, were they on sale?
George, eggs are always one of the best buys in the store.
That's so?
Uh-huh. When large eggs are $1 a dozen, they're less than 70 cents a pound.
Oh, you look at it that way, eggs are a buy.
They're inexpensive, they're nutritious, and they're a great source of protein.
I guess you could say that eggs are all they're cracked up to be.
Oh, George.
The incredible edible egg.
A message from the American Egg Board.
Nice party, huh?
It's okay.
Would you like some punch?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You spilled my punch in the potted plant, the one with the Job's plant food spikes in it.
No, it's really Spike. Get it?
I used to worry, but Job's spikes give my plants and flowers the nutrients they need to be healthy and beautiful. Job's are safe
So am I.
and easy to use.
Yeah,
Job's can
right.
turn a plant into a real lush.
Uh-huh. I knew you had a sense of humor.
I do?
Job's, indoors, outdoors, the easiest way to grow on Earth.
Several Harvard University buildings, including dormitories, were evacuated this morning. This after a chlorine leak in an athletic building at the Cambridge, Massachusetts school. Initial reports indicate several people had to be treated at area hospitals for chlorine inhalation. Senator Strom Thurmond, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee, said this morning he does not anticipate a single negative vote against Sandra O'Connor's Supreme Court nomination. A confirmation vote by the full Senate is expected this evening. President Reagan this hour is scheduled to welcome the president of El Salvador to the White House. Jose Duarte will be seeking more American assistance for his administration's battle against leftist guerrillas. Earlier this morning, the president met with a group of business and civic leaders at the White House. The session was aimed at selling his economic policies. President Reagan said local communities must take over more of the responsibilities which currently fall to the federal government.
One of the other things that government has done with its good intentions is violate that old rule that you can give a hungry man a fish and he'll be hungry tomorrow, or you can teach him to fish and he'll never be hungry again.
President Reagan this morning at the White House. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission today is expected to approve a limited firing up of California's controversial Diablo Canyon atomic power plant. That facility has been the target of anti-nuclear protests, and more than 1,000 people have been arrested there during the past week. You're listening to Mutual News.
A performance story from Phillips Petroleum.
When I started out as a geologist, it seemed that most oil exploration was done crawling about the sides of mountains. Now we do it with data from satellites, 500 miles in space. We start with a satellite image which is, over half the area of the Texas Panhandle, and then after computer enhancement, we can look at detail as small as a football field. The way we're using satellite information at Phillips, we can look for oil here in the States in places and ways that used to be absolutely impossible. I'm Colin Wilkinson, Western Exploration Manager for Phillips. When the first satellite was launched, I suppose my thoughts were, that's exciting, but what's it going to lead to? Now, I believe I've got the answer to that question.
Caring for your car and more. That's performance from Phillips Petroleum.
At Salt Lake City within the hour, convicted killer Joseph Franklin will announce whether he wants a judge or a jury to pronounce sentence. Franklin, an avowed racist, was found guilty over the weekend of shooting to death 2 black joggers. Pending outcome of his sentence in Salt Lake City, Joseph Franklin may have to answer 4 additional murder charges in 2 other cities. This is Fred Lowry, Mutual News.
Hi, this is Larry King, inviting you to join me tonight for the start of another night, another week, meeting fascinating people, talking to them about things they're interested in, taking open phones here and around America. Tonight's special guest, one of the all-time tennis greats, Arthur Ashe. He is now captain of the U.S. Davis Cup team. He's suffered it all. Arthur Ashe, victim of a heart attack in his early 30s. A black tennis star in a white tennis world.
Larry King tonight, starting at 11:05.
And welcome back to Talk Radio. Good morning. It's 10:35. This is the morning edition of the Talk Show, Monday morning, the 21st of September. Our guests for this portion of Talk Radio are Samantha Fox and Bobby Astor. They're appearing here locally at the Coronet Theater. 2 of their movies are showing, a movie with each of them in it. And they're here this morning partly to plug the fact that they're in town. You're doing an act as well at the theater, aren't you, in between?
Yes, we're doing we're trying to bring back burlesque, if you will. We're bringing back burlesque, yes. You want to tell them about it, Sam?
We're doing a little burlesque act that we devised. We took it out of a film that we were in, a scene we were in together, and we found it quite funny. And when we decided to go on the road together and have fun and make it lucrative, this was one of the skits we decided to do. We also wrote 2 others, but we're not doing them this time around. And this one's called Spy.
Well, we do a skit. Well, we do the skit. I mean the burlesque act as a whole.
Oh, well, there's an act.
Pardon the expression.
Okay.
Well, with one-liners and little silly sight gags and things like that.
We do a skit, and I tell one-liners while Sam changes to get ready to come out and strip in the old style burlesque. We got I'm the baggy pants, if you will. And, hey, there's some laughs and some sexuality, rather modified. And it's with a few...
It tells a lot about our morals, that you got to keep it straight for the live act.
No,
once
you
we
don't.
Get on the screen,
No, you don't. No, you don't. Actually, it could be rather raunchy, and a lot of these theaters do present rather raw sexuality, but we prefer not to. We prefer not to. I'm sure we could get ourselves booked around a heck of a lot more and make a heck of a lot more money if we were... what I use the term for it, but that's kind of like being the carnival geek, you know. The next step, then we're just degenerating. Then we're going back down to people be paying to come in to see somebody eat a head off a live chicken, you see. And like what we're trying to do is, at the same time as we are sexual, I know there's a certain amount of being a sexual oddity or being a human artist. On some level, there's a freak show aspect to it, but the fact of the matter is, what you have when you walk in. I mean, a lot of people walk in and are very pleasantly surprised that they're really thoroughly entertained by the show that we're doing.
Okay, so if you want to see them live, Coronet Theater for up through, what is it, the 23rd?
Right.
Up through Wednesday. Okay, couple lines open. 383-7040. Your questions are welcome, and this caller first. Good morning. You're on WOC.
Yes, sir. I won't take up too much of your time. I just have a question for you, and then I'll hang up and listen to your answer on the radio. Now, maybe it's just here in beautiful downtown Davenport that they show these X-rated movies down in Skid Row and the slum districts and the crummy little theaters. Is this the case all over the country? Do they ever show these X-rated movies in classy theaters or just in dumps like a turn?
Okay.
Well, first of all, I didn't recognize this area as really being a slum area. now that might say something about my character, but it's really a very clean theater inside. It's probably the nicest building on the block, first of all.
Is he talking about the Coronet?
Well, he said that's where it's held in the slums, as far as he knows. But as far as it goes, in New York City, it's really 42nd Street and around that area is really Skid Row and Murder Alley and Sex Haven or whatever you have it. I have traveled all around the United States, and some of the theaters that I've been to are, if you'd understand this, Walter Reed theaters with the carpeting and the air conditioning and Dolby sound and the screens with different